3 years, 7.5 average per year. Brock Nelson returns to the Avalanche, which caught some people a little bit by surprise. PhD, Dmac, Tyler Polumbus, Scott Hastings, and John Mitchell joins us right now. John, what's your reaction to the news about Brock Nelson being secured?
Well, I mean, I think it's a good deal for the Avs. Obviously, you know, ever since they kind of lost Kadri, they've been in search of that second line center for what seems like forever. And you know, he's that guy. I get that he's a little older. It'd be nice if he was, you know, like 2 or 3 years younger. It'd be great, but at the same time, you've got you lock up a guy for 3 years that's kind of a bona fide goal scorer, and he's produced for many years, so you at least know what you're getting with that guy. So, you know, I think the Avs did a good job there picking him up.
Was it a situation though, Johnny, also that they, after what they gave up to get him, they had to get something done with Brock Nelson?
I think when you're trading for a player and you give up what you gave up to get him and bring him here, you're going to do everything you can to sell what you have here in Colorado, not only just with the staff and the team that you have, but with, you know, the lifestyle that you can live here, the accommodations, how you treat guys and how you treat players. And, you know, I'm sure the Avs rolled out the red carpet as much as they could for him. And that certainly helps bringing him, you know, and keeping him in the fold. So obviously they did a good job with that. And, you know, I think where the Avs are as a team right now, that sells kind of itself with, you know, Nate and Cale in their prime, and being able to go deep in playoff runs, even though they weren't able to get out of the first round this year, which was obviously a shame. But you know, I think he sees where the Avs are headed, and they're obviously going in the right direction. And who wouldn't want to play on a team that's, you know, headed down that path, that's consistently going to be going down the direction of, you know, contending for the Stanley Cup year in and year out? Because the Avs are going to contend for that Stanley Cup for the 3 years that he's under contract here.
You know, good news for an older player. It's only a 3-year deal, but it does feel like a lot of money. I mean, $7.5 million, that is a lot of money. It doesn't leave them with a whole lot of space in terms of the cap. Where do you see the Avalanche going next with whatever space they got left?
I couldn't agree with you more, Tyler. When I kind of saw the number, I was like, oh, okay.
It's a lot.
We're yeah, that's a lot of money for, like I said, a guy that's 33 turning 34.
Yep.
I get that he has established himself in the league, but again, it's not like he's just kind of coming out of, you know, being 28, 29, or even 30 or something like that. He's you know, he's on the back nine for sure. So I get that there is a need for a second line center, and maybe the Avs looked at what was going to be out there in free agency and the assets that they potentially and probably don't have to make a splash and make a trade. So sometimes you do have to overpay maybe a little bit for a player of his caliber. Not that he's a bad player, but maybe just you kind of look at the age factor of things. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen him when he grows a beard. It's pretty gray. I don't think it's as gray as it's right there, that goater, but it's getting a little gray. So, you know, but to allude to what you said just about where that's going to put them in the cap situation, you know, obviously I think I heard somewhere that they've only got under $2 million. So that obviously straps them a little bit. And, you know, when that happens, usually that means trades are kind of in the weeds, and they're going to be coming. I don't know where they're going to go with that.
Well, are they going to keep Natchez or deal Natchez?
I don't know. I read something yesterday or the day before saying that he wasn't necessarily crazy happy with his time here.
Right.
So I don't know what that entails exactly, but yeah, I think you have to take that into consideration. If you've got a young player, a young budding star coming up, is it worth maybe shipping him somewhere else and getting getting a few assets in return. So that, I mean, that is, I don't think anything is off the table for the Avs when it comes to, making a move that makes sense for that
I mean,
organization.
would you rather have Lehkonen, McKinnon, Natchez, or Lehkonen, McKinnon, Nichushkin?
Ooh, I mean, that's a tough one. I'd have to go with the latter. I would take
Right?
Nichushkin and Lehkonen playing with Nate all day long.
I kind of
think,
want a lefty on the power play too, John, in all honesty.
Yep.
I kind of miss that with Mikko, right? Like who's that guy out there? Is there somebody like that? He doesn't even have to be a top line guy, but can we find that lefty? There's somebody like that out there?
Well, could that potentially be someone like Brock Nelson?
Could it?
Who scored goals, multiple times, 30 goal scorer multiple times. Now I'm thinking more on the power play side of things.
That's what I'm
maybe
thinking.
Not necessarily 5-on-5, but yeah, there's obviously someone out there, but I don't know if you're going to find quite the caliber of player as Natchez and at the cap hit that he's on. It's not too bad for a player that's going to be a point per game guy.
I hate to interrupt here, but I'm only talking about the power play because that's where the Avalanche made changes, didn't they? In coaching
and what they struggled
with.
Dallas, yeah.
So I'm not. I got to admit, Mitchie, I'm not overly concerned about 5-on-5 really with the Avs, but the power play was disappointing. And I think Natchez is a great player, sure, but he didn't really work on the power play, did he? So I might take a little bit less than to be better than on the power play. I mean, maybe that's just where they got to have their heads at, and they want Brock. He's there. So to me, moving forward is like, how do we make the power play better? And we'll just do what we got to do.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, because obviously when you're going into a playoff round against Dallas and you almost dominate them 5-on-5, and then specialty teams rolls around and then you get rolled on that. I mean, that's what it comes down to in a majority of hockey games, right? Is obviously it's the will and the desire to win those battles. But if you win specialty teams battles, I'm sure there's some analytics out there somewhere that if you win those battles, you're statistically way more advanced to move on and win that game or win a series. And it seemed like it was pretty evident there. So I don't disagree, because you've got Nate over there on his off wing righty. Then you've got Natchez over there on his off wing righty. Natchez isn't necessarily a guy that's going to go and stand in front of the net and kind of take a beating. He's a little bit more of a perimeter, make plays, shooter type of guy. Mm-hmm. Now, if he was left-handed, we wouldn't even probably be having this discussion. But it's crazy to think that just because he's the same hand as Nate and essentially plays in the exact same position as Nate would if he was on any other team, now it's a giant question mark, right? And how are you going to get that to work? And you kind of feel for Ray Bennett a little bit, because he was, right. He had a three-headed monster on the top of the power play with Mikko, Nate, and Cale Makar. I don't think there's a better three that you could have on one team. There's no other team that possesses something like that. So when you lose that, and then all of a sudden you don't have that lefty on that side that has the capability to shoot and make plays like Mikko could, that will throw a wrench in your power play, and they weren't able to adjust to it. So I think that's something that Bedsy and the staff and everybody are going to have to take a serious look at.
Hey, crystal balling, what does this team look like with the available in training camp, playing all year Gabe Landeskog do to this team?
It's got to do wonders for the team and for the morale. He is such a good leader. I obviously had the opportunity to play with him for 5 years, and he was a younger captain at that moment. But I went to, obviously I went to some pregame skates and whatnot, and just watching him out on the ice. And he's the exact same guy. He's just upbeat. He's trying to keep things light. He's trying to keep things fun, keep it energetic. That's what Gabe can bring there. And then also Gabe, if things aren't rolling the right way, he'll have no problem getting in front of the room on, front and center and calling guys out or saying what needs to be said in the dressing room. He's not going to tiptoe around anything. That's for sure. So I think having him there at the beginning of the year is going to be amazing for the Avs, and just to have that solidified captain leader, and he's one of the best in the league. So all of a sudden you get somebody of his caliber of a player, not only, but his leadership and what he brings to the dressing room and the off ice part of it, you can't replace that. So to have him come back I think that's going to be just amazing for the Avs.
All right, better story. McDavid gets his cup or Florida repeats?
I mean, I think McDavid getting the cup is
okay.
That's got to be the story. I can't imagine any other scenario, because if Edmonton goes in there and loses, imagine they get all the way to Game 7 and lose again. Like that is just imagine it's the NHL season is such a grind already, and the fact that did it last year, made it all the way, fought back, clawed back,
right.
got into Game 7, and you lose by a single goal.
Can you imagine?
I couldn't imagine the emotion of what would happen knowing that you grinded and put your body and your mind and your mentality through another grueling 7 months or whatever. You're looking at 8 months now, and you're going to get thrust back in there. You're going to see. I am so excited to watch the game tonight because McDavid already plays at another level, and I think he's going to be just insane tonight.
Okay.
My prediction: he is going to look potentially faster than he has ever looked in his NHL career.
So you're just glad that Dallas is not in it, right? Because we all hate Dallas, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's
thank you.
Say. It should have been the Avs and Edmonton in the Western Conference Final, battling it out, going to potentially Game 7 or whatever, right? That's where it should have been at. I'm just I was obviously disappointed in the fact that because I didn't know where Edmonton was going to go, and I don't think anybody did. Especially when they went into LA, and I believe they lost the first 2 games. And I was talking to one of my neighbors here, and he's from just outside Edmonton. He is a massive Oilers fan, and he's like, nope, they don't have it this year. They don't got it. Like he already threw in the towel.
Of course.
But he rides the roller coaster all the time. So if they're doing well, they're going to win the cup. If they're not playing well, I'm done with them. So he's kind of funny, but the fact that they were able to kind of not weather the storm, but figure it out and then just kind of roll the next 2 series is amazing.
Well, John, we appreciate a little June hockey talk with you, brother. And we can't wait for the Avs to get back on the ice again. We'll see you, my man. Thank you, John.
It'll be great. Yeah, pleasure. Thanks, fellas.
Okay.
See you.
John Mitchell.